Yo, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining. Thanks for clicking. Please click all those other buttons I need you to. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I have had no luck. I've made about 5 videos now that have either been ruined, distorted, noisy, taken down, or I fucked up on my end somehow. And I am getting demoralized, and I am not doing what I want to do. I apologize, everyone. I should have had about 50 videos out in the last few months, from the Trump assassinations to what's wrong with our food system, what's wrong with our government, where Biden is, and everything else that's wrong with this country. So I apologize. I am failing you. But right now, we need to do everything we can. But right now, we all need to do our part. We got to talk about Hurricane Helene. We got to talk about the lives that it's fucking changed, ruined, and for everybody involved that's down there that lost somebody or that's dealing with it, seriously, I am so sorry. I see the devastation. I see the destruction, and I wish I had my shit together, my life together, so I could do something to really help some lives, because I can see how much you need it. And I pray for you, and I am going to do what I can from where I can. But right now, we need to talk about it. We need to show you people what's up, what's going on. Our government's not helping. Our government's not going to help. They're not going to be there for us, all right? It's going to be people helping people, and eventually we're going to have to revolt and take this country back. There's been no government at all there for 3 or 4 days. When they did finally show up, it seems they're more getting in the way of the actual effort that's been going on. They're shutting down Americans trying to help out. They're shutting down civilian efforts. They're getting in the way. They're confiscating stuff. But let's show you what's going on. I'm going to get off screen. I'm going to show you some other people who are going to show you on the ground what happened, and then on the back end we need to talk about why this storm happened. And boy, are there a lot of conspiracies to talk about. And man, people are gonna find out what our government's capable of. All right, let's show you guys what's up with this storm. Please share this video. Please like this video. The people down there need our help. They need our prayers. They need our love. They need our money. And eventually they're going to need more supplies. It's not just going to be a one-time thing. When you see this video, you're going to be like, how do they even move on with their lives?
Here's the best breakdown I've seen that tells us the magnitude of what's going on. Let's go.
Talk to you about geography, because we need to understand the scale of what's going on. This is the state of North Carolina. This is the area that's without power still. This is also the state of North Carolina. This yellow outline is the country of Belgium that I've overlaid for scale. Okay? This is the scale. 230,000 customers without power means households. Based on US Census data, the average household size here is about 3, which means we're talking about 600,000 to 700,000 people who have not had power for a week. That is an emergency by itself. If you don't have power for a week, then if you had food stored in the freezer, no, you don't. If you had breast milk, insulin stored in the fridge, no, you don't. You don't get to run your CPAP machine. 750,000 people without power for a week should make headline news by itself. But power outages are unfortunately one of the mildest of problems. Water is also out. Cell coverage is out. If you're seeing people posting from this area, there's a good likelihood they're having to drive miles to do that. And that is if they have a car that wasn't destroyed, if they can get gas somehow, and if they have roads they can drive miles on. These are the road closures. Okay? And these roads are not closed because there's some water on them. They're closed because they look like this now. Right? This times this. That's the scale. The reason the roads look like that is because this is the topography. This is not like a lot of cities where you drive for a half an hour to go get to this. This is the region. This is where people live. When you live in the mountains, you get one road. And they're going to put it wherever they can put it. That's why it's shaped like this. Very often, that's going to be along a river or next to it. When a road looks like this, right? That means the land looks like this. So when a hurricane decides to go hiking in the mountains, which has never happened in this area before, ever, you're going to get a torrential amount of water, and it's going to be moving very fast because it's moving down a mountain. And this river is going to explode. It's going to take out this road right here, and it's going to take out this road right here. And then everybody that lives in here is trapped because you're not walking out. Some people are. Some people are putting what they can and their children on their back and hiking out, which is, to be honest, pretty representative of typical Appalachian scrappiness. Anyway, the other thing that's going to happen is mud, because the water is not going to just gently fall down the mountain and go in the river. It is going to get into the earth, and the earth is going to become mud, and that is incredibly heavy. And the whole mountainside is going to shear off like a windshield wiper and carry everything with it and put it in the river. And that's why we're seeing the level of destruction we're seeing, because roads are not the only thing that is gone. This is not a river. This is a town. This is Chimney Rock. This is a screenshot from this user. This is what it looked like before. And this is the scale that we're talking about. There are hundreds of small towns in this picture. This is Asheville, this right here. You've heard a lot about Asheville, probably, hopefully. Asheville is not a small remote mountain town. It is a city of 100,000 people. It is the city that you would drive to go to the doctor if you live in an actual small remote mountain town. And it did get devastated. It did get hit very hard. But part of the reason why you are seeing so much coverage out of Asheville is that you can get there right now. If you're going to send a news crew to North Carolina, they can just drive into Asheville. And you do not want to be taking up a helicopter right now just to take pictures, because people are still trapped. I do think some news organizations went here for a working lunch and didn't ask anybody if anyone lives up here. So I'm a little frustrated by that. But gradually, I think the coverage is developing. The rest of this is going to be very bleak, so don't watch it if you're already not okay, please. The mortality counts that you've seen in the tens are irresponsibly optimistic. Those are the people who've been identified. When you find someone's remains washed down a river, how do you know where they came from? How do you contact their loved ones to get an identification? When the cell towers are down, when the roads are down, when all of those people are still concentrating on trying to get out and trying to get food and water, you're going to wait. You're going to wait until the living are taken care of. We have not begun to hear the mortality numbers from this disaster. This is a small country. And it's my mom's small country. And it's gone. Please pay attention.
What's that say? BEEVES of time? Beeves of time? So if you got TikTok, or if you just want TikTok, because she seems like she might be covering this whole thing, definitely give her a follow. She might be on Instagram as well. I can check right now if she's on Twitter. Beeves of time. Let's see. She's not, but everybody. Oh, yeah, she's not, but everybody is resharing what she has going on. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty insane. That is the best breakdown that you will hear. And let's just get into, man, it's so crazy that there's not more coverage. Again, I wish Joe.
Horrendous. It looks like a freaking bomb got set off over there, especially where Biltmore is. If you're headed towards Hendersonville, that whole area looks like a bomb has been set off. But guys, that's not what needs to be covered. I need this video to go viral. I need you all share this. Share it and tag and share and tag. Get this out. I need this to reach as far west. People, we have communities. We have people in these Appalachian Mountains right now. Right here in these Appalachian Mountains, we have brothers and sisters that are stuck, that are trapped. It has been 7 days. 7 days since Hurricane Helene hit the United States. We've got people trapped in these mountains. And people are asking where our military is. Our military can't do anything until the leader of this stupid country right now signs off on it. So our military is stuck. They cannot put boots on the ground. They cannot hike these Appalachian Mountains. They cannot rescue these people that are in these mountains that are stuck. They can't get to them. They can't do anything. Our military can't do anything because they will not sign the orders to release them. It is up to us, American people, and we are doing everything we can. We got hit in Greene County. Our riverbank is gone. Houses are gone. I need y'all to understand, outside of these Appalachian Mountains, the news are not covering it. They're not telling what it's like. The county above us, Unicoi County, is the county you've seen all over the news where the people were on top of the hospital that had to be rescued. You saw how much water they had. That water came down to Greene County. You all have saw Newport, Cott County. Dolly was there yesterday. Dolly Parton. That's where she done her press conference where she's donating $2 million. $1 million out of her pocketbook and $1 million out of her donation, or out of her fund. Guys, East Tennessee and Western North Carolina is 1,000 times worse than the news has made it out to be. There is people, I need y'all to understand, especially coastal states. You all that live in a state that is surrounded by the ocean, that it connects to the ocean, when you get hit with a hurricane, yours involves an ocean. That ocean comes in, it floods you, but it sucks back out. You are still left with your buildings. You're still left with your homes to be able to go in and see if you can salvage anything. Okay? You're left with that. These people aren't left with that. These people don't even have a structure to go back to see if they can save anything. These people don't have anything to go back to look at. It is a concrete slab, and it's here, and it's in Unicoi, and it's in Cott County, and it's across that state line in North Carolina. And I'm going to tell you now, North Carolina is so much worse than anywhere. Those mountain towns, you've got to understand, people live off grid for a reason. They want to keep talking about the death toll. They want to keep comparing this hurricane to Katrina and the death toll. I'm here to tell you now, and I've told other people, and I've talked to news stations, and I'm telling you, this death toll will blow Katrina out of the water. There is people we don't even know who was on those Appalachian Mountains hiking them. There is people that live off grid for a reason. We have no idea how many people lived in those mountains. We don't know how many homeless people had camps set up in those mountains. I can tell you now, where I live, there was homeless camps set up all along the river. And now they're gone. And we don't even know if the homeless made it out. We don't know if they're alive. We don't know anything, people. We don't know. You need to understand, there are bodies washing up. This ain't a joke. There is counties in North Carolina that don't have enough body bags. They have already filled thousands. There is one county in particular, they've done filled 1,000 and they're begging for more because they don't have any more. Please do not compare this hurricane to Katrina. Don't even compare what Florida got from Hurricane Helene. Do not compare what they got compared to East Tennessee and Western North Carolina, because I'm going to tell you now, we're not the same. We are not the same. People have asked, why were we not prepared? You can't prepare for something that has never happened. It's the same as asking Florida, why are you not prepared for a blizzard? Because a blizzard has never happened in Florida. I'm in Tennessee. I do not connect to an ocean. There is no reason that we should have had that much damage. Have we ever been flooded by hurricanes? Yes. But nothing like what we just endured. You've got to understand, we didn't have an ocean that come in and then sucked back out. We had
confirmed bodies, but I have to tell you the truth here, folks. You can smell the bodies in certain places along the river. There were vultures out. They have marked, with they being the National Guard, have marked over 100 bodies in a 6-mile stretch of river. Possible bodies, just where they think they are. You can't see them, guys. The bodies, the smells, the things are either buried in sand or they're up in the trees and they're crushed in sediment.
Yeah, I just saw a chicken right there. You couldn't really tell. Like, you'd smell something, or you saw flies.
Yeah,
So the National Guard, is there a lot of National Guard helping right here?
There weren't at first. The first 3 to 4 days we were down here by ourselves. We were helping each other. This entire thing got cleared to here by locals, by the local farmer and our neighbors. The evacuations that happened on this road were primarily started by myself and my neighbors. and the local farmers on this road. And then the National Guard got here the day before yesterday. I'm so confused on my days because I haven't had internet or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But the National Guard did get here, and the National Guard, in collaboration with some fire and rescue folks, were able to help us airlift a 96-year-old couple that had dementia, and they needed to leave. They couldn't stay here. And so we were able to get choppers to them and get them out.
That's good.
But, people are still missing. They have, they are now bringing in body recovery teams. Their goal is to specifically get and retrieve bodies so that they can get them to the medical examiner and check their teeth records. So that process is really hard. And it's going to be really challenging. Like, a gentleman handed me body bags, which I had body bags in my car all day yesterday. And I had to explain to him something that had to be explained to me, even as a rescuer. When I watched the National Guard and they confirmed that the smells I had been smelling were most likely bodies, I was like, well, where are they so I can get to them? You can't get to them. They're crushed in debris. They're up in trees. They're under sediment. They're under sand. Unfortunately, it will be a very long time before you find all these people that are missing. And I haven't even had...
What's interesting about this spot is you would just think I'm down in a river, but this used to be a road. The road, the infrastructure, it's unrecognizable. Only way over is the trees that the river pushed over here. It's a balancing act. Found the pavement again. I can't believe there was a road here. A road I've driven on. It is unimaginable how a road used to go down this river to Chimney Rock. There is no road whatsoever in sight. Maybe some guardrails that blend in with the color of the rock that are now wrapped around trees and the remnants of a crushed car. I mean, it's bad out here. Animals look tired. Civilian helicopters, Blackhawks, Chinooks. It's crazy. Used to be a roof over there.
This is where we get into conspiracies. This is where it starts to get fucked up. This is where my brain goes now when I hear about natural disasters. And those two words aren't supposed to go together. And here we are again. And they're trying to tell us that this was just a Mother Nature just going off track a little. And I don't fucking believe it. So let's take a look at this video. And then again, leave in the comments. Share this. Spread this. Talk about this. All right, there's so much to fucking talk about here. This is not natural. All right, conspiracy or not. All right, this is stuff that the average person should know about. All right, the government has been running all our lives without asking us how we want to run it. We have no input into all the way we live our lives. None of us have any input into what's supposed to be an organization for the people. It certainly seems to be an organization against the people. All right, let's check out this video.
Blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the NexRad network of transmitter installations. All available science evidence makes clear that atmospheric frequency transmissions can and do have a repelling effect on air masses, especially if and when the air masses have been seeded with electrically conductive nanoparticles. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions and will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered? You decide.
But take a look at this anomaly that's shooting down almost to where we're going to see landfall. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see if this thing actually lands right on top of where we think landfall is going to be. Now, there's something else kind of shooting out here underneath this layer of moisture over the southeast. It looks like it's coming from either northern Florida or a radar tower in southern Georgia. But the main one right here, look at this big beam that shoots down right to about here. That's where we're expecting landfall, give or take. Now, something even more interesting I want to show you on a more detailed chart. All right, I'll show you once here and then we'll zoom in, but take a look. It's coming from up in this area and it shoots down right to about here where we're expecting landfall. I'll move forward and you'll pretty much see it right away. There it is now. Boom, right here. Okay, so now we're going to zoom in and see exactly where this thing points to, because that is not your normal beam that you see coming from these radar. It's definitely coming from the state of Georgia, probably underneath this mess here. It's coming this way and there's a cross of that other beam either coming from northern Florida or southern Georgia. All right, this is about as close as we're going to get. We're going to see one anomaly over here in the western panhandle, and then we're going to look for that shot we were just looking at. We move one frame, boom, here's those weird waves that come off. We see this a lot underneath heavy systems, especially when they're approaching the coastlines. Now we're going to look for our beam here. We're going to see it pretty well. It's right about there. So this is pretty odd. I want to know what's going on here, and there's our cross beam, again, looking like it's coming from Florida itself, so it's coming up into this direction. This one is certainly coming down from Georgia into Florida, almost to where we're seeing landfall. If we backtrack a little bit, you can see here the momentum wants to bring this storm up and then kind of right into this area here. Maybe a little north, but that's what we're seeing. But take a look at these anomalies every couple frames, specifically that one we are looking at. There's another big one right there. It's kind of a sweeper. It's got multiple beams and it sweeps left to right. And now watch as we approach. You're going to see a bunch of little ones, and then we're going to see our landfall beam. That's the only thing I can think of naming it right now. There it is. Boom, right there.
It lays the predicate foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, September 30th, 2024. The inspired mantra remains: we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Thank you so much for tuning in on X Rumble and YouTube and in the live chat. I know you all been chatting already. I want to welcome you all. Thank you for being here. There are some folks today who are not with us that tune in regularly from North Carolina, from East Tennessee, from Georgia, that are cut off by this freak tropical storm hurricane that is wreaking havoc unlike anything that was expected. And unfortunately, we've had this discussions with people behind the scenes here that are researching these phenomena. Unfortunately, no one is shocked anymore. Nobody is surprised if we find anomalies, if we find that somehow there has been manipulation. And we're going to dive deep into that possibility today here, what that means, how it could be done, what technologies actually exist. But let's look first at what we currently know about this hurricane, my friends. So as of September 30th, this is right now, for those who are watching later, Hurricane Helene has caused catastrophic damage and flooding across the southeastern United States, resulting in at least 95 fatalities. That number is likely to go up. Over 2 million people remain without power, with the hardest hit areas including Florida's Big Bend region, Georgia's Lowndes County, and North Carolina's western parts. Widespread flooding has occurred, with some areas experiencing literal biblical devastation. Rescue efforts are ongoing, with emergency responders working to reach trapped residents and provide aid. Around 1,000 people are still unaccounted for, including a dear friend of ours who was in that region. Should be very well equipped to make it through. He's a survival guide, really good, but still he's missing and we haven't heard from him. So we're going to look at some of the anomalies and how the media is downplaying some of them. And this, we've heard these stories before. There's a weird picture. There's they found these blue thingies within the eye of the hurricane. And the story, this was in previous storms before, and this is what the media writes about. It's a strange blob in the center of raging Hurricane Helene that was picked up via radar, had more than 1.4 million X viewers baffled. The X post by Colin McCarthy revealed the radar anomaly was actually a cluster of birds caught in the eye of the hurricane over Tallahassee. The source is from the the Daily Mail. So, this is what happens, and this is sort of I'm not saying that this particular image weren't birds. I'm saying this is the kind of responses that you get from the assholes in the mainstream media on a regular basis that sort of just, think anything is a conspiracy theory. But we're gonna dive deep into what's actually possible. Here we see, which you saw in the intro video, which are beams, which seems to be radar beams. At least that's what it was. And they came from multiple directions. They were anomalies. And these are meteorologists that actually look at this data. It's not me saying this. And researchers who've been doing this for a very long time, like Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org, a friend that we had on quite a few times. He's talked about these blue dots here, these blue frequency transmissions. And here's his explanation for those who haven't listened closely in the intro. Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org describes circular blue flashes. Okay, so look at them here. You see them here? The circular blue flashes right on the right in what's the yellow and the green, that's the hurricane system. And those circular blue flashes is what he's talking about. And he says, which are claimed to be frequency transmission from the NextRad network. That's what he says. These transmissions, according to the speaker, Dane Wigington, can repel air masses, particularly those containing electrically conductive nanoparticles. The intensity of the blue flashes indicates the strength of the repelling effects on nearby storms or air masses. If there are no blue flashes, no repelling effect occurs, allowing storms to migrate in that direction. So what he's saying is that these blue flashes might be emissions from NextRad, we're going to get into that in a moment here, that are repelling the storm system and pushing it, in this case, towards the east, which we've all seen an unexpected turn. Everybody was expecting landfall to go further west it was as far west as Destin, Florida, and Pensacola, and then it moved to the east towards more like the Port St. Joe, Apalachicola area, and then it moved even further east, which the last turn was sort of very unexpected. And Dane Wigington thinks this might be a NEXRAD thing. So what is NEXRAD? This is very interesting because a lot of people do not connect NEXRAD with weather modification. NEXRAD is Next Generation Radar, is a network of high-resolution Doppler weather radars used primarily in the United States. It helps detect precipitation, wind, and atmospheric phenomena, allowing for weather forecasting, storm tracking, and severe weather warnings. NEXRAD works by emitting radio waves and interpreting the reflected signals from particles in the atmosphere, providing detailed information on storm structure, rainfall intensity, and wind patterns. It plays a crucial role in meteorology by identifying tornadoes, hurricanes, and other severe weather events. Now, this is the official description of NEXRAD. However, there were a few researchers that went deep into the theory that the Doppler radars, it's actually a weather weapon hidden in plain sight, so that these are actually they are emitting frequencies that actually manipulate, change, or even create weather patterns. The most prominent researcher on this subject disappeared, and her channel disappeared, and she's been putting this out for quite some time. So I would encourage you all to look into the Doppler radar weather modification theory, which is not often talked about. Everybody knows about HARP by now and a few other, but very few people are actually talking about the Doppler radar. Okay, let's talk a little more. Here's some quotes by Dane Wigington. I mean, read a little more. And Dane has been on our channel, and I've asked Dane repeatedly, Dane, what do you think of this weather phenomenon or that weather phenomenon? Dane repeatedly says we haven't had natural, quote unquote, natural weather in 25 years, according to one of the most prominent researchers, creators of documentaries. He says the climate engineering insanity is nothing short of weather warfare. We're literally living in a climate engineering chemical experiment, and the consequences are becoming catastrophic. Global climate engineering operations are the single greatest threat to the Earth's remaining life support systems. Now, if you want to learn more about Dane Wigington and his work, go to geoengineeringwatch.org, or you can also search on YouTube for Dane Wigington Inspired, and you'll find our interviews with him. So weather modification, here's the thing. Let me take this off. Today, to this day, when you talk to people in normal settings, you talk, weather modification, they laugh at you at best, and then the only thing they probably heard about is maybe cloud seeding, and maybe the Chinese have done something and the Russians have done something, but this is all futuristic stuff that doesn't really exist. Well, let's look into some of the official patents, the weather modification patents that very well exist officially. Okay, so I'm not going to read you the numbers. Okay, you can read them yourself, but here you have one: weather modification by artificial satellites from 1971. Method for modifying weather using satellites. This is what Lyndon B. Johnson was talking about in the intro. Then we have one: artificial ion cloud method and apparatus, also from 71, for creating artificial ion clouds to alter atmospheric conditions. Then you have another one from 2006, the hurricane and tornado control device, a method of disrupting or controlling the energy of hurricanes and tornadoes. Well, could this possibly 18 years after it's been patented be used, right? Is there a chance that these patents, like most patents, are not just patented, but are actually being used for things? I'm just thinking out loud here. Then you have a method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere from 1987. This patent, linked to HARP, describes a system for altering the ionosphere. Another one, a system and method for wind and water alteration from 2007, used to control atmospheric conditions, specifically rain and wind. So as you can see, these patents basically cover the entire basis. If you can make it dry, you can make it wet. You can make it windier. You can steer things. I mean, just saying. This is quite incredible, actually. So when we look into the official position of the government and how the government might be involved in this, because these patents mostly are held by the government, by the way. So you have the NOAA's role, and the NOAA monitors weather modification projects under the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972, which requires any such activities to be reported to the federal government, which you will maybe see is interesting because the government has mainly always denied any large-scale weather modification projects. And it's the media and everyone else is claiming we're all just tinfoil heads, but this was 1972. So there's an agency in place that their role is to track and monitor weather modification projects that officially don't exist. According to reports from organizations tracking weather modification activities, there are dozens of active weather modification projects in the U.S. These projects mainly focus on cloud seeding to increase rainfall, hail suppression, and snowpack augmentation in regions like California, Texas, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Colorado. There is no official acknowledgement of large-scale weather control. So this is sort of the official government-based position. The U.S. does not officially recognize or engage in large-scale weather manipulation or control like altering hurricanes, and has signed the NMOD Convention, which prohibits the military or any hostile use of environmental modification techniques, including weather manipulation in warfare. So some people would say, well, okay, so there's basically a convention in place that prohibits the government. No, there are conventions and agreements with other nations in place, and this is a Geneva Convention, by the way, which simply states that they can't use it for destructive purposes against other states. Nowhere does it say, technically, that they can't alter things, and we don't know, by the way, who has access to such technologies. So here's the NMOD Convention. Article 1 prohibits the use of environmental modification techniques as a means of destruction, damage, or injury to any other state party. Okay, so that's that. So officially, you can't use weather warfare against other parties or modification. Now, we should ask the Syrians and the Turks. If you remember the huge earthquake, hundreds of thousands of people died. Was it last year? Year before last? Remember when Istanbul didn't want to play ball about the new NATO members, and then Erdogan played ball after that natural earthquake that no one ever talks about anymore? Well, you know, sometimes I guess they break their own rules. The convention defines environmental modification techniques as deliberate manipulations of natural processes affecting the Earth's biota, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, or outer space. The treaty entered into force for the United States on January 17, 1980, after ratification by the Senate. After years and years of negotiations, and after a previous agreement, by the way, between the Soviet Union and the United States, they had a non-attack pact with weather weapons from the 60s. So please, what are people talking about that these weapons don't exist? And let me ask you this. What other weapons and methods and technologies that we are not using? That's the whole problem. That people, that's the foremost sign of an undeveloped, idiotic, moronic society, is that everything we can do, we are doing. That's what makes us so dumb as a collective, because we can't restrain ourselves, and everything that we develop or insane psychopaths develop, they are using. Ask the people of Lahaina. A year and change later, who exactly has been held accountable? Is there a 15-minute city implemented? Will we see 15-minute cities in Asheville, North Carolina? You can bet we will. Will land be confiscated? Well, you can bet it will be. Will they be looking for rare earth minerals with their huge deposits in that area? And will that now be a priority? Well, you can bet it will be. It's what always happens. What was Operation Popeye when we're talking about, since we're talking about weather modification? Operation Popeye was a covert U.S. military weather modification program conducted during the Vietnam War from 67 to 72, because we didn't have those weapons, right? The goal was to extend the monsoon season over enemy supply routes, primarily the Ho Chi Minh Trail, by introducing rain through cloud seeding. This would cause heavy rains, muddy roads, and slow enemy movement, making it harder for North Vietnamese forces to transport supplies. Okay, so what we wanted to show is that these things are existing, have existed, and have only been sophisticated since. Anomalies such as the frequency, bursts that we've seen and the radar bursts that we've seen are probably just the ones that people caught and that can be seen and detected with officially available tools. I would assume that a lot was done to that storm and around that storm that we cannot know about because we don't even know these technologies exist. Now, does that mean that every weather event is a steered or is a created or controlled event? Well, I'll refer you back to an expert, someone who's been doing this research for decades, who has dedicated his life to this, Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, and he simply says we don't have any natural weather patterns. We don't have them. So whatever you look at, it's been messed with so much that you can't call anything natural weather. I think that these things have gone out of control. You have a perfect storm with extremely warm Gulf water this year, which of course helps to increase the energy of such storms. And then you would have to ask yourself why, this was such a massive system, and why the inland damage hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the ocean. So when a storm makes landfall, within a few hundred miles, the wind starts to slow down because, it's over land mass. And usually the problem is rain and flooding. But the amount of rain that came down and the flooding and the dams breaking, all of this is completely unprecedented and hard to explain unless you mess with this greatly.
All right, guys. So there is just an endless amount of information that's out there, and it's not great. Most of it is about unmarked helicopters causing havoc, marshals blocking aid, streets closed to aid, fire departments seizing people's distributions of aid, and all of these people being denied help, drones that they won't let people fly overhead, helicopters that were told that they would be arrested if they tried to fly out survivors. Is anyone asking why it looks like the government is trying to stop the aid of these people, and why it looks like whatever branches of the government that are out there trying to stop people from getting help? Can we figure out why? Can we please spread the word? Can we please tell people to check out the videos? Can we please check out these people out there that have been stopped from helping and giving their assistance, their time, their money, their effort? And some of them have extremely, extremely valuable things that would be helpful, from infrared drones that could actually drop materials, helicopters that could help fly people out, identify where people are. And then, God forbid, you all work together and co-opt all this together. Imagine what you could get done, and they're just not allowing it. And honestly, you got to ask why. What's going on? What the fuck is going on?
Rapid intensification in the Gulf of Mexico, which is kind of a newer phenomenon. And I went to the Google Trends to actually see how new of a phenomenon this was. April 2007 was the first time rapid intensification had ever been Googled. And then, as you can see, over the years, it did happen again in 2012. And then there was a few of them between 2016 and 2017. But then, now it's also on the rise. So I just wanted to point out that the term rapid intensification was pretty much non-existent before April of 2007. All right. So now to the storm itself. I want to show injected convection. So you see this convective activity that's coming in from the east edge of the storm where the arrow's pointing, and it's like it's being sprayed in there, injected in there, pumped in there, whatever you want to call it. But these clouds look like they're coming from a point source in the ocean, and they're flowing up into the storm and causing a lot of convective activity. All right, so now we have seen this in the past, and I want to introduce again Bruce Douglas, who is someone who we've mentioned on this show before, but he went into some detail on the Hurricane Otis rapid intensification. So I want to give a little bit of background. Hurricane Otis was the most rapidly intensifying storm in history, in recorded history, where it went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 in less than 24 hours. Now, Bruce is going to give his 2 cents on why that might be.
Let's take a look. We're going to slow it down here. So this is the tropical storm. And I'm seeing these little sudden bursts of clouds going and then dissipating. Like it looks like they're trying to whip something up. I see this burst right here happening. And so here's a little burst, kind of coming out of nowhere, But what's most interesting is what happens when a big aerosol comes in from the side. All the yellow is extremely dense material. And then there's 5 hours missing. And then it suddenly jumps into a hurricane, like within a short amount of time, within a few hours time, it spins up. And as it moves closer to shore, it speeds up into a full, class 5 hurricane. Kaboom, it nails Acapulco, quickly breaks up. And then there's these aerosol releases off the shore.
All right. So as you saw, Bruce was showing that there was some aerosols appearing to be like injected into the storm, which was convecting and adding to the strength and the density of the storm as well. So I just want to show this video one more time before. Now, this is Hurricane Milton. This is probably from yesterday or the day before, but you can see injected convective activity. So now, what could that be? Well, we have a video from Real Life Fishing, and he's a fishing boat captain who knows the Gulf very well, and he's going to give his explanation.
Greenpeace obviously knows about these bunker ships that's in the ocean that looks like forest fires. Just one of 2 pictures of bunker ships that I do have. There is literally hundreds of these ships out on the Gulf of Mexico with unlimited power, like I showed in my previous video, of fuel. I really think all this individual stuff's bunker ships out here. Let's look at the marine tracker, see if there's any idle out here. Okay, Warriors, at 12 minutes, I appreciate y'all, but this is truly what makes me angry. Super tankers sitting here out of gear. What are they doing? Right in the middle of a hurricane, gonna take it out of gear. Right here is where the hurricane is creating, where I think all the smoke is coming from. Every one of these red ones are super tankers. Every single one of these red ones. 12 knots, that one's moving. But who said they can't be moving with the smoke? 2 knots, he ain't going nowhere. Two knots, he's not going anywhere. What is going on out here where these hurricanes are? 1.2 knots, he's not going anywhere. Why are all these super tankers sitting out here in the ocean not moving? Where the storm is being built. They have ships out here pumping this material out. There's no reason for these ships to be out of gear at 1 knot. Super tankers. Bunker ships. They're controlling our weather. Got all the bunker ships out here to do it. That one's at 12 knots. I believe all the ones at 12 knots and all, that's cruising speed. They're going somewhere. But these ones at 1 knot doesn't make any sense. There's tons of 1 knotters out here. 1 knot's you walk faster than that. This is a land grab. There's a target on the people. We are being attacked, and it's worldwide, my friends.
All right, so that was his first video on the bunker ships, also known as super tankers, who can sit idle and run their engines and create clouds, basically. And these clouds get sucked or convected into the storm and add to the density of the storm. Now, he did also, later on that day, he reiterated, he went into more detail on these boats, and I'm going to show that now.
I had a great question from a warrior. They want to know what these people are burning on these bunker ships. It is bunker fuel. almost an endless supply. They can hold hundreds of thousands of gallons. Each one of these machines, there's 2 of them aboard this vessel. But here is their testing facility. They claim it's a rocket engine testing facility, which it may be, but they also produce rain with these same technologies. This is quite loud. They can produce rain with these equipments. They come in many, many forms. This is another one I'm going to show you here that can be put on top of mountains. I believe was in Mexico this winter that gave Florida continuous cloud cover. These billionaires are phenomenal wealthy, but here is the cloud makers. And this is nothing clean about this. That is a lie.
Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh, NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
So I did want to bring up these technologies are not top secret. These patents and things, I don't want to go into it again, but we've done a lot of content on the patents and this technology, and it's public knowledge. It's nothing kept secret. It's just a lot of people aren't paying attention to them and connecting the dots.
All right.
And then the guy that just did that one, I don't know his name, but we'll put his channel in the description, and please go head over and subscribe to him. He's doing a really amazing work, and he has a smallish channel. So he's got a lot of good content there.
Yeah, I'm going to put the link for his channel and some of his videos in the description. The channel name is Real Life Fishing, and he's doing a good job keeping up on this. He's a warrior. All right. So now, speaking of warriors, I want to go back to Into Thin Air. He just did an update today on Hurricane Milton and how it's now Cat 5. And I'm going to play that now.
All right, everyone, welcome back. October 7th, 2024, and we are tracking Major Hurricane Milton. This thing has broken records overnight, and by the timing of this video, this thing is a Category 5 hurricane. Now, you're not going to believe what I'm already seeing taking place near the state of Florida, just like we saw with Helene. Rapid intensification within 24 hours from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5. That is likely the fastest a hurricane has ever rapidly intensified after forming in the Gulf and then continuing to stay in the Gulf. Look at this. Major hurricane all the way to landfall around 7 p.m. Wednesday. That may shift, give or take, but my friends, this is a horrible situation for the west coast of Florida. All right, and now, my friends, into the stuff you really want to know about. All right, let's take a look at Florida, and already it's looking like a disco party is going on. A lot of different radar activity going on. We got spikes here going all the way into the Gulf, heavy lines up in this area, and then, of course, we have the one we saw with Hurricane Helene right here going off again. Now, of course, remember, these are just theories that we're talking about here, entertainment purposes only, because no way is weather modification real, right, everybody? The head of Hurricane Helene, we had a very significant low pressure system up by North Carolina already sitting there that then interacted with actual Hurricane Helene, causing the record-breaking flooding. Now, just look at this one more time. Take a look at what's going on up here, the disco party, and then look at these clouds down here, making unnatural formations, right angles. We don't see right angles in nature. So a lot of the rain and moisture taking place in Florida is almost a precursor to the landfall of the hurricane. Again, the same situation took place with Hurricane Helene, days of rain in the Carolinas and Tennessee before that thing even made landfall. A little bit, you can get a much better idea of what I'm talking about. Look at that. We got one coming from all the way in North Carolina, streaking across South Carolina, Alabama, part of the Panhandle, through Mississippi, and into Louisiana. This is unreal. This is a very distinct radar beam here. And then look at the other ones fingering down like this. And if you continue to watch, you can see our little beams coming from Georgia right down into Florida, exactly where Hurricane Helene made landfall. So again, my friends, whatever's going on here, we're just speculating. Again, my friends, just a very, very odd situation. A lot of different anomalies taking place ahead of the hurricane heading into this exact area. It is very similar to what we saw with Helene, and I do not think it's the last we're going to see of these anomalies. Keep in mind, we are already at a Cat 5 hurricane, so hopefully a little bit of weakening as it approaches Florida. If that takes place, it'll be a total miracle.
All right. Now, I do want to correct one small, honest mistake that he made in that video was the really long beam that you saw going from, Georgia well, actually, it was going from South Carolina crossing over Georgia. He had said it was going from North Carolina crossing over South Carolina. I think it was just an honest mistake on his part. But anyway, I was actually going to go to the College of DuPage website to try to keep up on this storm myself and see what beams I could see and other anomalies. And so when I went to the College of DuPage site and I was looking at the real-time radar mosaic, you can see that the bottom half of the screen is blacked out, and that happens to be where the hurricane is. Now, if you look up towards Louisiana, you can see a beam coming down from Louisiana pointed towards the hurricane, but you can't see the hurricane because it's been blacked out or removed or censored or whatever. Now, I know that there are radar installations in central and southern Mexico, but they're not being shown on this map. So that was just another anomaly or missing data that I wanted to point out.
Right, and that's something we're seeing that we saw with Otis, and we also saw with the fire in Maui. So missing satellite imagery. It could just be a glitch, but it is something that we're seeing as a consistent theme.
Right. There was 5 hours of missing data from Hurricane Otis, and that was the exact time of the rapid intensification. So that's actually all the data from the rapid intensification of Hurricane Otis is also missing. Not to mention the satellite images over Maui on August 8th during the fire are also conveniently missing. They have they're blacked out, just like we saw in that last picture. All right. So one more thing I wanted to cover is also very similar with what happened in Hawaii. So Cape Coral actually has a City of Cape Coral GIS map. So GIS stands for Geographical Information System. Now, the way that they make these maps are made with the green lasers. So they have GIS satellites, which are equipped with these green lasers, which are scanning lasers. And these are actually for creating these maps that you see here. Now, shown on this map is actually the future land use of Cape Coral. And Cape Coral appears to have lots of mixed use development. They also have the Pine Island Road District, which is the purple area. It's a road that goes towards Pine Island. And you can see that, they have all sorts of plans, for the future, and they've already mapped it out. And I just wanted to point out that, after Hawaii was mapped with these green lasers, they had a disaster that cleared the area to be redeveloped. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cape Coral is also impacted very heavily. So regardless of whether it hits north near Tampa Bay or if it hits more south near Cape Coral is going to have a high storm surge. However, Tampa Bay could be slightly spared. So if the storm actually hits south of Tampa Bay, then the winds that Tampa Bay experiences is going to be going out to sea, and it's going to be blowing the water away from Tampa instead of into Tampa. However, if the hurricane actually travels north of Tampa, the storm surge is going to go right into Tampa Bay, and we could be looking at a $200 billion damage. All right.
And I think that was the area where I was getting comments and emails that they saw these lasers. I could be wrong. I didn't look it up, but I feel like Cape Coral was that area. So if you're in this area, please let us know in the comments if you did witness that, or if I'm making a mistake and it was somewhere else. It definitely was in Florida, where a lot of people witnessed those green lasers.
Yeah, and judging by the existence of the map itself, Cape Coral was scanned with green lasers at some point because that map exists, and that's how they make those maps. It was from the Cape Coral GIS, which stands for Geographic Information System, and that it is done by satellites with lasers. Okay, so now I think that covers everything we have for Hurricane Milton so far. But there is still a lot of coverage to go over when it comes to Hurricane Helene.
Something that has been going around, and it is confirmed that one of the biggest lithium deposits in the world is under Black Mountain in western North Carolina. So I'll play a little clip that goes into details of the lithium mines and how it relates to Hurricane Helene.
We actually have something rather interesting when it comes to North Carolina Hurricane Helene and a particular agreement. You see, North Carolina has a lot of lithium deposits. There is a corporation that really wants these lithium deposits. That corporation is called Albemarle Corporation. Now, Albemarle is owned by both BlackRock and Vanguard. And you have to remember, electronic vehicles are very important to the powers that be, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and so forth, when it comes to the 2030 agenda. Matter of fact, last month in September, the World Economic Forum and the United Nations met to speed up the 2030 agenda. 2 years ago, back in 2022, the Albemarle Corporation wanted to restart mining for lithium at a site along Interstate 85 in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, that was shut down back in the 1980s. But you see, there's a problem. Residents worry about keeping homes if lithium mining restarts in Kings Mountain, the same exact place that the Albemarle Corporation wants to start mining. Well, there's homes, stores, and businesses near these deposits. Some of them are actually on top of these lithium deposits. Take, for example, a technical center along Raven Circle, which is still on the 800-acre plot of land that the Albemarle Corporation wants to dig under. Community members, residents, they gathered in protest, they had meetings, they said they definitely did not want to move. These residents were going to put up a real battle. They were not going to move. Well, flash forward to February 2024, the Albemarle and the BMW Corporation announced a multi-year agreement to supply battery-grade lithium to BMW for use in their electronic vehicles. The agreement will begin in 2025. The United States Department of Defense awarded Albemarle a $90 million agreement to support the expansion of domestic lithium mining and production. The agreement will help Albemarle reopen its Kings Mountain, North Carolina lithium mine, which is expected to be operational between 2025 and 2030, where we have all these residents, stores, and buildings that do not want to move. So what happens when residents do not want to give up their land? Well, just like Hawaii, as coincidence may have it, quote unquote coincidence, Mother Nature kicks in and helps them move, helps them leave. Now, when I say Mother Nature, of course I'm being sarcastic. Well, Hurricane Helene just happened to ravage the area. This area was the most impacted by Hurricane Helene. We are talking about towns wiped off the map.
All right. So contrary to popular belief, go ahead.
I did want to mention, this is something that's been going on in my mind. And it's kind of with a heavy heart I bring this up, because I think the process that's going to go forward with the North Carolina, Tennessee area, and this fight for the land, I think it's going to be different than how things turned out in Maui. From what I know about this area and the people I know from this area, and I believe the history in this area, as we have heard, the people of Appalachia are not just going to bend over and give their land to the government. I do feel there are going to be many, many people that are going to defend their land, possibly till the death. This is not going to be easy. And that's what I'm really hoping, is that the owners of these properties are going to make a stand and make it as difficult as possible for the powers that be. And I really hope that happens, because unlike in Maui, things didn't go quite like that. But I hesitated because I don't want to in any way disparage the people of Maui, but I do feel like in that sense, things are going to turn out a little different. And then, what were you going to say?
I wanted to point out that contrary to popular belief, this is not fake news, because there is a plethora of paper trail to prove this lithium mine story. So yeah, that's actually true. And we've also got, other rumors that have said that some of the stories that are coming out of North Carolina are actually not true, right? Well, we have plenty of firsthand accounts from survivors in the area that have basically corroborated those reports. And so we can actually go into one of these now. Do you want me to show the helicopter?
Yeah, about how some of the relief efforts are being sabotaged.
Yeah, so there was reports of relief efforts being sabotaged by a helicopter. It looks like a Black Hawk of some sort. And this Black Hawk had hovered low over the distribution area and did rotor wash on the supplies and blew them all over the place. Now, a lot of people had claimed that this was lies, but we have video proof, and I'm going to show it to you now. Okay, so there was actually 2 or 3 different locations that this happened at, and there are allegedly 3 videos of this. This is one of them, and you can see the helicopter hovering and blowing canopies and supplies all over the place with their rotor wash. And then this is another video. I do believe it's the same location, but this allegedly also happened in 2 other locations. Whether you believe it or not, here's the video proof. So you can see that, this is a Black Hawk of some sort hovering over the distribution hub, blowing the supplies and the canopies and everything all over the place. And it was even claimed that a couple of people were injured by this rotor wash. It probably knocked them down and they fell down. All right. So when it comes to, fake news and rumors and things like that, the mainstream will often label things as misleading or misinformation or even malinformation because it doesn't fit their narrative. However, their narrative has been proven to be untrue time and time again. So when it comes to that, we've heard a lot of stories come out of North Carolina about the piles of the bodies and the stench and the lack of response from the feds. And a lot of people are claiming that that's not true. However, the longer we go, we get more and more and more of these firsthand reports that actually corroborate that. And I want to play one of these for you now.
And they said, "We found someone alive. We need help." So me and my wife both went down there. It was one of the gentlemen who were down there getting the woman out of her house that got swept away.
Mm.
He had been buried underneath probably 2 tons of tree and debris and had several of his deceased loved ones on top of him. And the only way to get to the young man where he was across 2 down tree trunks that were parallel to each other. His father had a chainsaw, and we cut away as much of the debris as we could. And it took us about 15 minutes because we could only be in there kind of side by side on those 2 logs I mentioned. And we had to pull him out. And so thankfully we were able to get him pulled out from under the other deceased who were there. And my wife and another nurse who was in the community took care of him. We did other search and rescue, but out of the 18 people, or it was 19 total people in that stretch there, that quarter-mile stretch of road that were missing. Only he was the only one that we found that was still alive. It was a local response.
Yeah.
Yes. The only response we had for the first 24 hours, and I would probably venture to say maybe 48, was emergency response from surrounding counties and local. The fire department had set up a Starlink Wi-Fi that they were using for communication because even their radios and stuff weren't working.
Now, during that whole day of Saturday, are there helicopters flying over? Are you aware of any government response at all?
No. So there was up through Saturday, I don't think there was really any helicopter coverage or anything. We hadn't heard of any kind of outside help.
The things we've heard is that, people were swept away, there were bodies in trees, that the smell of death is out there. Are you experiencing any of that?
Yeah. It's not pleasant. I mean, like I said, this is something like none of us have ever seen anything like this.
No.